For those of you who don't know, every year Jordan and I do a challenge where we see how long we can go comfortably and healthily eating only food that we've hunted, foraged, or grown in our community garden plots. Last year was a great year, and we went 3 months before deciding to throw in the towel and order a pizza that night. We're getting ready to start this year's challenge very soon, so this video is going to be a little different. We wanted to take you through all of our food stores that we've put away throughout the growing months to get us through this winter.
All right, so we'll start down here in the basement where we store a lot of our cured vegetables. Right here we have some of our potatoes. We've only harvested about half of those so far, or probably less than half. This is 15 pounds of potatoes that we have stored here, which is around 9,000 calories worth of food. And then right here we have our acorns, which are dried and cured. And we have about 17 pounds of acorns, which is around 29,000 calories worth of food. I feel like most Americans probably know how to eat potatoes. It's pretty obvious, but with the acorns, we're going to soak these in water to remove the tannins and make them edible. With the tannins, they taste really bitter and they're not very good for you, but once you remove those water-soluble tannins, they're actually a really healthy starch full of protein, fat, and vitamins. So we'll use those for pancakes and kind of like dense acorn breads. It's not really like gluten bread with the stretchy gluten strands. It's kind of just like a pancake. So we'll be doing a lot of different things with that, and we'll show you some of those later in the season as we eat through this stuff. And then down here we have one of our biggest mother loads this year. It was a great year for black walnuts. These are a native nut. They're absolutely filled with fat and protein and very calorie dense. We have about 4 bushels of them in the shell. So by volume, they're about 36% usable nut meat in the shell. So we calculated that from these 4 bushels, we have about 253 cups of edible nuts, which is around 200,000 calories worth of food. So these will be really good for us over the winter months. Along with the black walnuts, we have 2 different kinds of hickory. These are an oil nut hickory. They're actually sometimes called bitter nut hickory because if you just eat them raw, they're very bitter because they're full of tannins. But those tannins are water soluble, not oil soluble. So you can press in oil with these to use in cooking, and the tannins don't come out in that oil. They stay behind in the meal, and the oil is actually delicious. And then right here, we have some shagbark hickory nuts, which we think tastes like a better version of a pecan. So we just like to eat these raw or crush them up and boil them in water for a Cherokee preparation called kanachi, which is absolutely delicious. Then over here, we have butternuts. This is actually the first year that we've harvested these. They're not as common as the black walnuts, but they kind of look a lot like them when they come off the tree, and the trees are very similar. So far, they kind of taste like a marker, but that has happened in the past with black walnuts, and if you just let that, those volatile compounds kind of gas off over time, it can taste a lot better. So we're just gonna let these sit for a few months and see if the flavor improves. If not, we'll throw them back out and the squirrels can enjoy them. We also have a half bushel of these feral apples that we picked. Most of the apples we preserve in applesauce, or we just can the apples, or we press them for apple cider. But we're trying to keep some of them just stored down here in the cool basement so that we can have fresh apples to eat in the winter. And we'll see how long they last. If they start to get soft, then we'll just cook them into applesauce and eat them that way. But we're gonna hopefully have some fresh apples to eat this winter. So now we have our 2 freezers where we store most of the venison, which is basically the only meat that we eat in the winter. We ended up getting 2 deer this year, one of which was a very large buck, so we're pretty much packed to the gills with venison. As you can see, it is all the way to the top of the freezer. We have about 120 pounds. We haven't weighed it out completely, which is roughly 100,000 calories worth of food, and it's plenty of protein for the coming months. We also rendered 6 pounds of tallow, which is the fat from the deer that we harvested, which I think is around 20,000 calories worth of food, and that'll be good to cook with for different things and make soap if we want to. And then in the second freezer, we actually have a bunch of frozen fruit, so we'll be able to defrost that and use that for desserts or making jams or kind of whatever we want. We also have a lot of frozen greens. We will have some greens that are overwintered out in the garden, but this will just be a little bit more convenient in the dead of winter when we're kind of hungry for some greens but don't feel like walking out in the snow. We can just defrost some from in here. So we haven't weighed all of this out yet, but we have, packs of sour cherries, packs of sweet cherries, a bunch of peaches. Oh man, this is amazing. I can't wait to eat this stuff. There's a bunch of tomatoes that I can't get out because they're so packed in there. Some sweet corn, greens. What are these? Oh, some Saskatoons or service berries. These are absolutely delicious wild berries that taste like a cross between a blueberry and an apple. Oh, this is a bunch of venison that we're giving away to people. And then down here, the last 2 rows are just more venison because it didn't even fit in the giant chest freezer. So we will definitely be eating plenty of protein this winter.
Up here is probably my favorite part of our winter food storage because it doubles so well as a nice fall decoration. We just store all of our pumpkins on the mantle and windowsills and tables and basically every flat surface in our house. We haven't harvested or weighed all of our pumpkins yet, but so far we have about 180 pounds of pumpkin, which translates to roughly 43,000 calories. And as a bonus to that, we'll get 10 cups of pumpkin seeds, which makes an excellent snack, or we put it into salsa matcha or make horchata out of it, and that should be about 3,000 calories worth right there. And here we have another great decoration, our corn. So we have a few different varieties here. I know we've spoken about them before. The carousel popcorn, Hopi Blue flour corn, and our old reliable Wapsie Valley dent corn. And with all of this corn together, we have almost 60 pounds of corn, which translates to a little over 100,000 calories. So we're gonna be using this for all kinds of things this winter. It's really like the main backbone and a foundation of most of our meals. We'll use it for things like polenta or grits. We'll use it for nixtamalizing and making into tortillas and pupusas and hominy, which will go into all of the great soups and stews we'll be making with our venison this winter. What else do we do with corn? Tortilla chips, cornbread, can't forget cornbread. Basically every corn nuts, thanks Jordan. Yeah, basically every meal will involve corn in some way or fashion. And of course, when I'm getting hangry and need a snack, popcorn will be there to save the day. We have a few different areas where we store our canned goods, but this is my favorite because it's in this cute little hutch that we got from Jordan's childhood home. And I love to just look at all of the cans lined up in the winter time. So this doesn't represent like a huge amount of calories compared to the corn and the black walnuts and the venison, but it does represent a lot of vitamins, minerals, and flavor, which is very, very important as well to make good meals throughout the winter time that we actually enjoy eating. So we have up here lots of salsa verde, just salsa made from tomatillos, as well as a few different kinds of red salsa. Down here we have lots of different fruit. So these are canned sour cherries, more of our canned peaches, applesauce, apple butter, elderberry jelly, which is delicious as a snack, but also can help, fighting off some pesky colds and flu. And then at the bottom, we have more tomato sauce, as well as canned whole tomatoes, pickled okra, canned peppers, and looks like more applesauce. So we'll be all set on applesauce this winter. Over here in another corner of our dining room, we have another very important section of dried and canned goods, starting with beans. Beans are another very important staple of ours. Of course, they pair excellently with corn to get that complete plant-based protein, and they're just delicious in tacos, stews, chili, etc. We have a few different kinds this year. The one we have the fewest of are these Hidatsa shield figure, but they are really beautiful and also really creamy. They're probably my favorite one to put in soups. Then we have these Good Mother Stallard. which are also a really nice creamy bean, good for soups or refried bean or just to eat on their own. They're this amazing swirly purple galaxy pattern on them. And then finally, our most productive bean year after year are these Cherokee black beans. And these are the ones we grow the most of, and even when we grow the same number of plants of other varieties of beans, we always get the most of these. So they're just really productive in our area, and they're just a great workhorse of a bean. We throw these in chilies and stews all winter long. So all in all, from beans, we have about 30,000 calories and lots of protein. This is also where we store a lot of our dried things that we've dehydrated throughout the season. So we have lots of mushrooms. These are some chanterelles, shiitakes, lots of shiitakes, and hopefully we will get even more on our logs. They usually give us a nice flush in the fall once the weather gets cool and wet again. There's a couple more gallons of dried corn that we've already taken off the cob just for convenience over here. And then there's some more fruit. These I'm really excited about. These are some feral pears that we harvested, and then I poached them in a wine syrup from wine that we made a couple years ago that wasn't that good. And the pears also weren't that amazing. So when we combined the not that great pears and the not that great wine syrup, it actually turned into a really delicious dessert. So, you know, making lemonade and all that. This is apple cider that we pressed and canned this season, which I think we mentioned in the video where we talked about pressing apples is way more than we had last winter, and it was so wonderful to have fresh apple cider in the winter months. So we can't wait to be able to have a lot more this year. And then a really exciting thing we have saved up this year is honey. We had a little bit of honey last year, but this year was the year we got our first full harvest from our flow hive. So we have, after giving away lots to family and friends, we'll have about 48 pints we estimated of honey, as well as some comb honey, and that equates to about 100,000 calories. So that is a lot of energy and calories right there, and also a lot of sweetness to tide over any cravings we have throughout the winter. And then finally, we have some overflow of some of the things I already mentioned, like canned tomatoes and salsa, as well as some canned apple chunks when we're feeling like a little texture rather than just applesauce, and some grape syrup that will be really nice to put on our acorn pancakes. And in the back, we have a big old canister of dried nettle leaves. This is just a really great vitamin intensive leaf that we can use to make tea or put into what we call nettle matcha lattes throughout the winter, and it's really tasty and, like I said, super nutrient dense.
Thanks for following along. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to sharing what we're going to do with all of this food in the coming months, all of the dishes we're going to make. And if you're interested in this lifestyle and learning more about how to grow or forage your own food, we actually have 2 extensive online courses that teach you how to do exactly that. If you look at the description below, we have a link to those courses as well as a discount code. See you next week.